Hey guys, I'm going to step away from talking about the Bible and God's plans for the end time. And I got to tell you some other stuff that it just burns me up that for the most part, Americans are led by what the mainstream media says and they don't go any further with it. They don't ask questions. They don't ever look at things. For the most part, not everyone, but I'm not accusing you guys of this, but I just did the average American. And I'm going to talk about three conspiracies that I think are when you just spend 10 minutes looking at what went down that particular day. You're not looking at what's been reported in the days after, but you look at what happened on the day of the event. That's where you find the truth. They can't hide that. The people that carry out these, I'll refer to them as false flag attacks or conspiratorial events. You can't hide what happened on the day of. They can't erase history when the reporter puts a mic in front of somebody's face and tells them to tell them what they saw. Just can't do it. So they have to just basically erase that from the mainstream media, gin up a new story to tell, and then tell you the story that's going to program your mind to believe what the government wants you to believe. Okay, so let's go back to 1981, the day that Ronald Reagan was shot. And basically what this boils down to is that John Hinckley was what they refer to as a patsy. The way that they carry out these things, the way the CIA or the shadow government does this, they have the bad guy. He's called the patsy. Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. Osama bin Laden was a patsy. And they have to have the bad guy to blame. And behind the scenes, there's somebody else that's actually carrying out whatever they're doing. Okay, so the day that Reagan got shot, I'm not going to play the footage, but we all know that John Hinckley did this. And the interesting thing about John Hinckley, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. John Hinckley came from a family. His father, Hinckley's father, was oil buddies with George H.W. Bush from the 1960s. Think about that. The guy who supposedly shot Reagan, his father was friends with George Bush. And the day that Reagan got shot, Hinckley's older brother was going to meet with George Bush's son, the brother of George W. Bush and the son of George H.W. Bush. Now, why would the older brother of Hinckley be meeting with Bush's son? Listen to this news report from the day of. They can't hide this.
Irony. The young man walking with the elder Hinckley is 30-year-old Scott Hinckley, John Jr.'s brother. He and Vice President Bush's son, Neil, are friends. They had planned to have dinner together in Denver tonight. The plans have been canceled. Stephen Gear, ABC News, Denver. At the State Department, the Pentagon...
Okay, so did you hear what he said? I mean, so how in the world would the guy that's accused of shooting as Ronald Reagan, his older brother's going to be meeting with the vice president's son? Something's going awry here. This stinks. Something smells here. So let's just make it plainly state that they were trying to take out Reagan because Bush wanted to be president. It's not that complicated. Bush worked for the CIA. Bush was the head of the CIA for a while. And so, this country is so screwed up to think that, for the most part, people couldn't figure that out. So, here's a guy that's he's reviewing the story. I'll let you listen to a little bit of him.
Did you know that the Hinckley family and the Bush family were meeting the very day that Reagan was shot? The two families were very close, but the press never focused on that critical fact. John Hinckley Sr. helped raise funds for Bush Sr.'s unsuccessful attempt to win the Republican nomination instead of...
So look, look what we got here.
Reagan. If Reagan had died, the oil man's interests would have been served. Both the Hinckley's and the Bushes had made a fortune in the Texas oil industry. Hinckley had previously flown to Nashville to stalk Jimmy Carter, but was arrested at the airport when authorities discovered 3 handguns.
Okay, so let's think for a minute. George H.W. Bush, he's head of the CIA. He ran for president in 1980 on the Republican side. He lost. Reagan won. And then all of a sudden, Reagan's got to pick his VP. Reagan didn't want to pick George H.W. Bush as a VP, but guess who came calling? David Rockefeller called. He's basically the crime boss of the United States. He called and he forced Reagan into taking Bush as his VP. And then, what about 3 months into his presidency, Bush gets shot. Now, let me go back here a little bit. Judy Woodruff, just listen to me for a minute. Judy Woodruff is a reporter. She was on the other side of the car when Reagan got shot. She said, and I can't find the audio tape, she said that she heard something whiz by her ear. Now, for something to whiz by her ear where she was located, she was on the wrong side of the car. And what that means is there was another lone gunman. So the theory is that what Reagan got shot with was some strange looking newfangled bullet that the CIA was using. So there was a patsy shooter and then a real shooter. So, and we saw the same thing when Kennedy got shot. All right, I'm going to jump to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City was a bombing of the this Murrow building here, and the patsy here was this guy Tim McVeigh. Tim McVeigh was accused of creating these fertilizer bombs, driving a truck up to the front of the building so the bomb was in the truck. The bomb goes off, and he runs away from before it went off. He's alive, and it blows the front of the building off. But let's look at what is reported the day of. See, they can't hide this part. Look what's reported the day of the bombing. Just listen here.
Of explosions. The first bomb that was in the federal building did go off. It did the damage that you see right there. The second explosive was found and diffused. The third explosive that was found, and they are working on right now as we speak, I understand, both the second and third explosives, if you can imagine this, were larger than the first. So try to imagine 2 or 3-fold happening what we've already seen there. It is just incredible to think that there was that much heavy artillery that was somehow...
Okay, so Tim McVeigh, I thought the bomb was in his truck. But they're talking about they diffused and removed bombs from the building, and they diffused them. But the bomb's supposed to be in the truck. So how many people listening to my voice right now know that there were multiple bombs placed in this building and that they pulled the bombs out and diffused them? So this whole narrative about Tim McVeigh, this lone bomber in the truck, and the truck's what blew up the building, that's a bunch of hogwash. You can watch 100 news reports the day of this bombing occurred, and the bomb squad carried away bombs. And they diffused them. But that's not what the narrative was. They couldn't go there with it. They had stopped talking about that. You can't get around this truth.
Moved into the downtown Oklahoma City Federal Building. 2 other explosive devices were found and were not detonated, and they were larger than the first. I think he said another bomb.
See, so, okay. So who put the bombs there? Well, the bombs were put there to make it look like these militia guys. At the time in 1995, they wanted to collect the guns. They had to have a means to collect it. So they generated this story about these militia people. Tim McVeigh was thrown into this, and they had government operatives ginning up these militia guys to go and do crazy stuff like this. So they make it look like Tim McVeigh, who's this militia guy, who has these, AK-47s and stuff like that goes and blows up a federal building so they can generate legislation. So this was a psychological operation where our government, insiders in our government, blew up its own building, killed Americans, children, to get legislation to sway the country to want to collect the guns. That was the purpose of this thing. So okay, 9/11. This is the king of all kings of conspiracy. Look, this was an inside job carried out by the Mossad and the CIA, the Israeli Mossad and the CIA. Why did this happen? The point of 9/11 was to establish a stronghold, a base in the Middle East. What happened after 9/11? We had a base in Iraq. That's what it boils down to. And the defense spending just went up, skyrocketed after this. Now let's look at this now. Let's look at a reporter that's standing on the side of the road. This is a planted witness with a story to give us the story. This guy who's going to speak here is Joe Sixpack, standing on the side of the street, with his T-shirt on. He saw the whole thing, and he's going to give us the first minute by minute. And look how detailed he is. Look at the information he provides us. He's able to know this. Joe Sixpack, just standing on the road. He's got it all figured out. He's like, just watch.
Who may have been inside the building or just outside the building when it came tumbling down. We want to bring in Mark Walsh, who's
He's an actor. There's the reporter. Oh, the Men in Black. This is the CIA operative who's overseeing the asset here. They call him the Men in Black. Notice where he steps in and report. Okay, he steps in to make sure that the actor's saying the right thing.
a freelancer for Fox. You live just a few blocks away and witnessed.
Dude, I live on the 43rd floor of a building which is 5 blocks from the World Trade Center itself. I witnessed the entire thing from beginning to end.
People talk about how it looked like a movie. I know when I came walking down here early this morning and saw both towers on fire and people on...
Notice the guy in the background, dressed up nice. He's a CIA operative. He's a black guy, you know, hey, whatever. And he's standing here, he's watching, listening to what he says. And when they get near the end of this thing, this dude, the operative guy, the Men in Black, steps in and says, that's enough. Like, he did what he needed to do. He tells him to stop it. And by the way, this is Fox. You know, whatever. Rick Leventhal's his name. They're basically the pawns. They're sort of a part of this too. But watch.
On every street corner, it was like a movie, but you watched the planes hit the towers.
I was watching with my roommate. It was approximately several minutes after the first plane had hit. I saw this plane come out of nowhere and just ream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
Obviously, there were a lot of people inside the buildings at the time.
Two guys from the 7th precinct, the 1st precinct, the fire department right here, the 7th truck, those guys are all right there at ground zero when those things went down. And God bless, I know there's a lot of guys there that were around there. Hopefully they made it out.
What was happening around you, in the streets around you, as this was all going down?
Absolute pandemonium. From my viewpoint up 43 floors, I could see people running like ants, just absolutely scurrying for their lives. Billows of smoke coming through the streets.
This makes my blood boil. This is why I can't stand this country from the core, guys. These are the people that run. These are the people behind the scenes.
Just walking down the street, just pushing everybody back. And then several minutes after, it looked like it had just snowed over the entire area.
Yeah, the debris, the soot was thick on the street.
Just watch the Men in Black guy shut this interview down. He's like, they've talked enough. He's gonna step in and shut the thing down and watch.
We saw police officers running for their lives, screaming, get back, get back, get back. And I'll tell you, that's a wake-up call when you see cops running for their lives. And people, too, women's pushing baby carriages, that sort of thing.
Well, you had the first tower first. That one, when that first went down, it just pushed everybody back. And it was a good 15 minutes before the second tower finally collapsed. Yeah. And it was just overwhelming. And by that point, it was just insane.
Well, I'm hearing a lot of similar stories from people who were inside the building.
So, you know, and then what got me, you know, as an engineer myself, and I understand the laws of physics, I live that at my job every day. What killed me is obviously we had 2 buildings go down, 2 planes, World Trade Center number 1 and 2, and then at 5:20 in the afternoon, World Trade Center number 7 went down. And this is a video of it going down. It never got hit with a plane. The official story from the federal government is that there was a furniture fire on the 5th floor and it weakened one of the 88 columns. And you know, when you design a building, if one column goes, all the columns go, right? So this is some footage that never got released. It's a terrible picture, I'm sorry guys, but there started to be explosions before it dropped. So it's basically showing you that there was explosions, there was bombs placed in this building. It went off ahead of time and it imploded and it dropped exactly the way a purposed demolition happens. This is what brought me to the realization, I don't know, 15 years ago, that 9/11 was an inside job because of World Trade Center number 7. That was the easiest thing. Now, this guy, Larry Silverstein was the guy who owned the area. And he admitted that they collapsed the building. They pulled it, he said, because of all the damage. Now, it takes weeks to install bombs into a building to have it collapse like that, a purpose demolition. He's saying that they have him on video saying that because of the damage it caused that day around the 9/11, around the World Trade Center facility, they had to pull it. That's what he says. Pull it. But when did they have time to put the bombs in the building? It's because the bombs were already in there. This is such a corrupt. Look, this guy when he became the owner of this area of the whole World Trade Center area, he went and immediately doubled the amount of insurance. It's like you bought a house for $100,000, and you went ahead and you went and got an insurance policy on your house for $500,000, and then you burned the house down a week later and you collected $5,000 and you only paid $100,000. That's what he did. He got $7 billion out of this after he went to court and had to fight for it. That was his insurance payout, $7 billion. So, anyway, 9/11 was an inside job. Dick Cheney, all the rest, they're all as crooked as they could be. Bush was the patsy president. He sat on the knees of Dick Cheney when he had to testify to the 9/11 whatever inquiry, and he wasn't under oath. Now, a lot of people ask, what happened to the bodies that were on the people that were on the plane? Well, there was 4 planes, supposedly. And this woman right here, Rebecca Roth, she's used to be an airline stewardess. And she has, you can go to her and listen to her talk about her theories. She basically came to understand through a couple people that leaked this to her that the planes landed at some airport somewhere. I don't know where it was. Took the people that were on the planes, brought them to an incinerator, and burned all the people to get rid of them. Just like they did in 1945 Nazi Germany. Now you can go search out her videos and find her explanation. I'm not saying she's saying the truth, but that's what happened to the bodies. These people are sick, and they are the ones that are behind the ones trying to get rid of Trump. Trump's not part of this group. I'm not saying Trump's great or anything like that, but so this is all the CIA, black ops, shadow government, 9/11, Oklahoma City, trying to kill Reagan. Anyway, you guys look at this stuff yourself, man. Do not remain ignorant about this country that we live in and understand why it's going to be destroyed. With that, guys, have a good day. God bless you.